And live. Yeah, we're good. We're live.
Hello, good evening. Welcome to another edition of the CantinaMX podcast edition. I'm going to say 227
Yep.
of the CantinaMX podcast. Glad to have you with us as always. It's a Thursday night. We're getting back into the groove of getting these on for you guys because I know that when we were out, you guys were clamoring, begging us to record more shows at an integral part of the Mexican soccer season, and we sadly failed you. And we endeavor to only do that maybe two or three more times before this run is up. My name is John Jagu. Glad to have you with us here on the CantinaMX podcast. I have a lot to get to tonight. There's been some very interesting developments in the world of the soccer that we care about in this little corner of the world. So we'll get to all of that. But I can't do any of that before first introducing the other members of our panel. And I feel a little better about tonight's show because tonight we have it's a Texas death match with me and Albert Campa, who joins us from Kyle, Texas. How are you, sir?
Hey, John. Pretty good. How's it going?
Yeah, good. Now, just on a on a side note, Chiquis, is it ever good when your wife walks in and grabs tape measure and then walks out?
Tape measure. It's not too bad, right? Trying to
She has
understand the.
she has answered the question. She said no. Glad to have you on, Chiquis. We got a lot to get to, Chiquis, but we need to introduce the other member of our panel out in. That's I asked you last week what town you were in, and you said you lived, but you refused. I said I asked you if it was Milpitos, and you said no. But then you did not give us the town that
we
you
just
live.
we just call it the
Well, I
Bay Area,
understand,
man.
but you specifically, if I were going to send you a postcard, to what city would I address that to?
Shout out to the Yak. That's where I'm from.
The Yak,
The Yak,
the Yak,
actually. Yeah,
El
and
Yak,
the Yak. It's called Antioch, California.
and Yak.
If you look us up, it will just be
And
nothing
Antioch
but
sounds like a
bad news.
Klingon town.
Actually, I think it's a
We must go
old
to Antioch
it's a it's an old Greek town. I think it's from Greece. Yeah.
from Greece. Well, joining us from the Yak out in California is Jaime Landeros, a grade A Chivas fan. And before we get to Chicharito stuff, I think that every time that that Chivas win, I mean, I think we have.
Primero que nada, hay que felicitar a Chivas porque ganaron bien. La neta, hay que dejarnos de tonterías.
So there you have it, Chivas with a 2-0 victory. Their returning savior, JJ Macias, getting the second goal, of course, with an assist from Nachofis, who is looking to have a good season for Chivas. If La Trophies has a good season, Chivas is going to have a great season. So I think Chivas fans should hope that La Trophies has a good season. But I have to admit, Jaime, you have picked Chivas to win the title, and I would dare say, and this is somebody who is unbiased in every way. I would say that Chivas probably had the team that looked the best in the first week. And I don't
Uh,
think they've even come close to playing as good as they can play.
It's all because of a strong preseason. Pelas did a great job of getting the guys that we needed to get inside, signed, ready to go, and start the preseason strong. So
Went over to Las Hadas and Manzanillo and had a lovely build up. Go running on the beach over there, and they have the lovely there's a training field right there in Las Hadas where they can train and do their exercises. and then they have the beach there. Of course, there's this golf course there to relax, and you're in Manzanillo. I mean, it's a great place to do a preseason.
I mean, the
And
championships begins, in preseason. It
right.
doesn't happen on the first week of the of the season. Happens
Well, I mean,
way on.
sure, and it seems to me that I think that we can go ahead and proclaim Chivas champion. So at this point, what seed are they going to get in the upcoming new Club World Cup? Because it
We
looks like that's a foregone. I mean,
Ooh,
what gigantic team will they be beating in the quarterfinals? Will it be
shout
Liverpool
So it's
or
funny
Barcelona?
because I was watching the game, and some of my friends were like, you know, uh, let's hold on. Monterrey should give us the title that they just won because we are just playing so well. It's like, just give us the trophy already. I will say though, if I was to nitpick, some of the decision making was pretty poor, especially
Well, it's the
uh,
first week.
it's the
You can't
first week.
expect them to. Yeah,
It's something that has plagued this team for time and time again, is the finishing and missing your opportunities. This is a game that should have ended 4-0 easily, easily. And, 2-0. It's a great start to the season. Juarez, who I thought weren't that good of a team, but apparently they're winning 3-1 to Chiquis Pumas. So,
3-2.
um,
They just scored a goal. Pumas just scored.
oh,
I think it was a
okay.
yeah.
deflection.
3-2.
Eat it, Landeros. Eat it, Landeros.
And, I will say that trophies. I mean, especially now that Pocho is removed from the team and out of the he's out of the team. It's his position. I was kind of hoping Pocho would push him on and they would compete for the starting spot. But now that he's not there, it's trophies, man. Trophies plus 10.
As it should have been all along. I mean, I'm not saying that because I'm a fan of the guy. When you have a player who has plays with the style of play that he does, and when he plays well is a really good player. The only way you got a guy to do that is to give him minutes and put him in a position. Don't play him in a position where he's not going to fulfill the best of his abilities. There have been 5 goals in this game, and it's still the first half. That is
Oh, it's still the first half.
yeah.
Oh wow,
When I turned it on,
you
it was
gotta
2-1
love.
in a minuto 18. I was like, wow, what is going on? But yeah, so there you have it. No, I do think that Chivas played well. There's obviously room for improvement, as Jaime said, and it's going to be very interesting to see how Chivas, if they do start playing better and start working their way up the table. This is going to be an area where that they haven't really been in. I'm not saying league. I'm saying during the season. It's been a while since they've had that kind of run to where they might be in the top 2, 3, whatever it is. So we'll see how they respond to that, and I think that they probably should do very well. They have a good coach, and they obviously have a good GM, and they have good players. There's no reason why Chivas should not be one of the top 3 teams in the league this year. There's no reason.
Wow, I'm impressed with your what you just said.
Well,
We'll see.
some other
T-
some other big, I guess, news that came out last week before, I guess after the podcast was Chivas TV, and everyone started scrambling to sign up. How was
oh my goodness.
like we didn't talk about that last time, and I think
Well, it
you
didn't
were.
it didn't happen. We
It
we
happened
we
Friday, right?
our last episode was it
It
was
It
happened.
was
on it was
Thursday, and then they
it
announced
was
Chivas TV on Friday.
Yeah.
yeah.
And I think because of the fact that we didn't have audio in the first part of our show, uh, the I think was a precursor to the fact that Chivas TV. And I got to tell you, I think that this is not a good deal for Chivas.
I mean, should we give
Chivas
them
TV.
the backstory? The fact that Chivas didn't get a U.S. contract for television, and it seemed like they were going to do everything on YouTube as they did last season, and then I don't know, they just dropped this out of nowhere on a
Well,
Friday.
see, and the Friday before the season, the day before the season would start. So the fans that were expecting to see Chivas TV somewhere, they said, "Well, here you go. Here is Chivas TV now. You're it's going to be on Oh, by the way, you have to pay $7 a month for it.
Yeah.
So, how many subscribers did they get? Have they announced the
I'm not.
numbers? Because if they haven't
I'm
announced the
not
numbers,
sure.
I'm sure it's not very good at all.
Yeah, I would say I would be shocked if more than 10,000 people subscribed.
I
Um,
don't know what it was, but the interest in all the talk that happened on Friday got me interested, and I actually did subscribe. The main thing that made me subscribe though is a 30-day trial. So by
right.
February, what is it, 9th or 10th, I'll be canceling.
The first month is free,
Yeah.
and
Chivas or Chiquis is going to send Chivas ALV.
I
Yeah. I'll
I will
find it.
say I will say they were very quick to respond on Twitter because I had mentioned, hey, are we gonna do the app? Because the app has 2 stars on the iTunes store, and they're like, no, 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 no app. It's just directly through the website. You can stream it from your phone. And then I followed up with, well, how many people can use one account? And I never got an answer. But I was able to get 2 streams going at the same time. But it was just for people that aren't tech savvy. It's just a very risky
What is your?
business.
Tell us about your first dog, Jaime. What was his name?
My first. What street did you live on?
What street did you live on when you grew up?
What high school did you go to?
What is your mom's maiden name? Like if
Uh,
you had a Mexican passport,
yeah.
it would be
Quick tip: you never answer truthfully on those things.
Um, my password is Me la Peláez.
That was Juan. That was a Juan thing, wasn't it? Or did you make that up?
No, that was
Oh,
a Juan
that
thing.
was Juan.
it was excellent.
Uh,
I think, like you said, the app. They need an app. People don't use browsers to stream stuff. That's sort of like,
that's the thing.
what is up with that?
Okay,
You
so
It's
need
like
an
here's
app.
here's my question. How does Liga MX feel knowing that their most popular, if not second most popular team, is not on a linear uh, way to see their home matches. So it's not just Chivas that you're not going to see. You're not going to see when they
um,
host
in
Atlas and
America.
America and
Mm-hmm.
Atlético San Luis. Go go down the list. I cannot believe that they are happy about this.
Oh yeah, they must be pissed, especially because I mean, again, 24 hours before the first game of the season, they let everybody know. So there was no marketing done, no heads up, no hey, by the way, if you want to watch any of these Super Chivas Galacticos, it's going to be exclusively on, Chivas TV. So it just seemed like a last ditch effort to kind of recoup some cash on all the refuerzos that they brought, and then maybe just to put a middle finger up to to all the companies that obviously didn't offer them enough money for them to sign a deal. I think the magic number that they're looking for is 50 million a year. That's what Joel said. So they're
Five
just gonna,
zero.
yeah, I
It's
think
just
that's
not
what he
going to
said.
happen. It's not. And that's never going to happen. It's just not.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's gonna be 50 million, but obviously they want to be the most paid, and I also think that their pricing structure is very interesting because it's 6.99 for a month, but you're only gonna get what two games maybe, because it's not like they're gonna broadcast the away
Now,
games,
Jaime, you can also get you can get
the day
Liga
pass.
Femenil. You have Copa MX.
Uh huh.
You have Podologa Camp. So there
The
there's trainings.
por la
There
nalga camp.
there is the training, the press conferences. I mean, any Chivas fan worth their milk would
Well, but here's the thing, right?
sign
So
up
the,
to see
the
this.
the game ended, and everybody's trying to catch a replay, and the replay didn't come up until like the next day or two. Like it took a long time for them to get
The
that up.
nerve, the nerve.
I'm just saying, on YouTube, you could just go back and scroll through, and you could watch it. It was easy.
Over and over and over again. Sometimes
Yeah,
those lights
man.
close the blinds. Turn mom's picture in a frame away from the bed. It's time to watch Chivas.
So $6.99 for the whole month, or if you're an away fan and you're trying to watch, I don't know, for Clásico and you don't want to subscribe for the whole month, you can get a day pass just for one game, and it's $5. It's like, yo, whose idea was this, man?
Well,
I
how
don't know.
much did you think they were going to charge?
I think that they should have
What,
done.
like a nickel?
No, I'm not saying go cheap, and I think for what you're getting, I could have said $5. I think that would have been fair. 2 games, I think that's fair. Or they should have just stayed with YouTube and allowed us to subscribe through. They have like a membership option on YouTube now. You can pay YouTube and then,
Yeah, but then you're paying YouTube. You're not paying Chivas.
but you was get a cut of that.
Well, so does Google.
Mm. It would have been easier for everybody if they would have just stuck on YouTube. And then the most conflicting thing that really pissed me off was the whole pregame was on YouTube for free. And I'm like, yo, if I'm a paying customer, I expect everybody to like not have access to this content, or else what am I paying for? Where's the VIP treatment? Where's the exclusive VIP treatment? You know what I mean? If everyone gets to see this for free, then what's the point?
Oh, and
Those are just my
they're partnering with the Stream AMG. So the I don't know what there must be cheaper than Google, or Google might be taking bigger profits, but they're paying Stream AMG for this service. It's not specifically
mm,
on like a Chivas TV MX
right.
website that's owned by them
Yeah.
and hosted by
They don't have
them.
the infrastructure to
Yeah,
do
the
to do it
streaming servers
themselves.
are through this company,
Yeah.
which I looked
As
into the
opposed to last
company.
time they tried it when they just used their own server.
Yeah, they used their own. That was the
Remember
The
real.
company,
remember that Boca game they had? And all the Boca fans got so mad.
the yeah, the company is in Malta, is it not, Chiquis?
Yeah, it seemed I didn't see exactly where, but yeah, it seemed like they covered a bunch of European, like the FA Cup and
Well,
games over
the
there in
interesting
Europe.
thing is that they had to deal with NBC to do all their streaming, which is why I thought it was just going to be a natural fit for Telemundo to pick them up, since NBC and Telemundo are under the same umbrella. I mean, that to me would have made the most sense. But I mean, if Chivas is asking 50 million a year for 18 games, it's just not going to happen.
Yeah, maybe it's odd. Yeah, they're gouging the gringos. Because in Mexico, I don't know what's the deal in Mexico, where the Mexicans just watch it on the regular
Oh,
TV.
they're on
As-
Televisa in Mexico.
I
Yeah,
thought
so
they were on 2, right? They're on Azteca or something.
They're on the TUDN, which is, I mean, it's
Oh,
Televisa. The TUDN does not stand for
but I
UDN. It stands for Televisa Univision Deportes
no,
Network.
but I think they're on Azteca too.
No,
Because did you guys see the video of one of the commentators that made a joke about Cabañas? That was on Azteca.
oh, what
It was pretty offensive. I forgot what the joke was, but they were just
it was about
making
shooting.
fun of
It was like he took a shot, and he's like, oh, like the shot.
disparó,
Yeah,
pero esta
yeah.
vez no a Cabañas or something like that. It was just like, what, dude? Like that was definitely not on Tu de N. It was on another TV network in Mexico.
There was
I
another
mean
one also.
they're on.
It was a previous comment. I don't know if it was the same guy, but he made a previous comment. I think it was against a woman though.
Terrible, man. It was terrible. I saw that on Twitter. I was like, that wasn't on Chivas TV for sure. It was. I was like, I'm
Oh, that's
making sure. I'm
normal.
like,
That's normal though. You see Luis Garcia, even Luis Garcia and Martinoli. Like one time I was in Mexico and I was watching a Cruz Azul game, and just the stuff that they were saying, man, would never fly in the U.S. I mentioned this like on a podcast long ago. I think it was like 2 years ago or something when we were on, and even the things that they were saying was like, whoa.
yeah.
I mean they're
And then they have Brody
Yeah, Brody,
Campos.
he'll add that stuff on.
He'll sometimes chime in as well.
But yeah, he got railed on by everybody.
yeah.
I mean, so not to keep this about Chivas, but the whole Pocho incident happened after the podcast too. So I don't know if you guys have any thoughts on on how Chivas handled that situation, and if you guys agree
Oh, that's right.
with the way it happened, or who, what would you have done?
Let me make sure I understand, and you guys can correct. So it was in when it was it August or July he got tested, and the big problem here is how long does it take for I guess it was WADA who did the testing. How long does it take for them to turn around and report the results? And who do they report them to? I would assume Pachuca, and then Pachuca would, or maybe it's the league, and then they would take action. If it was Pachuca only and they just hit it, because, because it's weird that Pachuca came out with their public statement, just recently also. Like that, were they hiding it this whole time, or did it all of a sudden come out
They
right
were
now?
fully aware that he had failed that drug test, and
See, that's messed up.
they still sold him to Chivas without disclosing that. So Pachuca are in a bit of a pickle
Well,
themselves.
what kind of makes me curious about this whole thing, honestly, is I'm sure that this isn't the first player that has tested positive, and I'm sure that that stuff. I mean, let's face it. Do you think that these, the national team when they're at the Central, they eat chicken and fish because they don't want to eat the beef because they don't want gluten, right? Do you think the players are as disciplined outside of the outside of their?
Well, we don't even know what what substances he was
I
using.
understand, but here's my point. So how many of those the anti-doping tests in Mexico come up positive for
Glenn.
just because, yeah, just because of the meat that they eat?
Mm-hmm.
And so I would think that the chances are pretty high that there's a lot more positive tests in Mexico than uh, than you're at because of that. Now, obviously, some players uh, will probably test positive for other more recreational things, and I'm not, no one knows, what made the alarm go off on this little test, and they're going to run, Now the question is it going to take 6 months to run the B test because they separate it from A and B to make sure there isn't a mistake. But did they handle it correctly? I mean, how can you handle something like this correct? What do you do? I mean, it just, it kind of makes you wonder how who leaked that he had tested positive. Did they, you know, the, usually when something like that happens, I mean, there's like an official statement, and from the very beginning, and then they try and control the information, and do it on their terms when something like that happens. In most, what you would expect to be a normal situation. But that's not what happened at all, and it's not what ever happens in Mexico when it comes to situations like this. It gets leaked, and then they have to come out and defensively take a position, and it just
The
it's
pro
very unfortunate.
I don't know. I
And
just think that it was the whole thing is a whole shit show, man. Like Guadalajara didn't say anything about drugs or anything. They just said that he was going to be not training with the team for personal reasons. That was on Friday, and then right from there, the media just what happened? What happened? Is it drugs? Is it family? Is it what's going on? And then they waited until what, like Monday, to say something about it, and they had lawyers there, and I just feel like I understand why Chivas got rid of him and got asked for their money back from Pachuca because they want to keep the players focused. They're trying to win a championship, and this is just going to be a distraction. They could have been nice and offered rehab, and wanted to keep him and try and help him, but instead they kind of washed their hands and said, "This is your problem, man," and just let him go.
yeah. My deal, like thinking about it more, I think reporting to the team is not the way it should be done. I'm more familiar with this because I follow MMA a lot, and this happens a lot, and and there's a very specific process for everything. I think the league has to be notified of all drug testing results, and then if the league has the rules and any disciplinary action, like if marijuana is permitted and that's in the rules, then that's cool. But if
Right.
something else is not permitted, then the league has to be the enforcement because Pachuca, they don't have to. I mean, if they receive it and that's it, who says that they need to
Yeah,
even?
it's on them.
They
Exactly.
can they can
It
make
goes
their own
into a draw.
rules. So the league has
Excuse
to
me. You're
enforce it.
exactly right.
I mean, look at what's his name? This just happened to Brian Fernandez, right?
Yeah.
MLS canceled his contract because he was doing coke.
He may have had a clause in his contract where it says if as Cheeky says, it's not necessarily performance enhancing, but if it's something that's
It's okay. They might say it's
addictive,
okay. It's cool. Like you do
yeah,
recreational stuff, that's fine with us,
right.
as long as it
But they
doesn't.
might say, but if as long as you don't do this, A, B, and C, then we got a problem.
Yeah, like if you're doing steroids and then you're like sprinting down faster than
See, and it
normal.
also, yeah, and it also raises some very interesting, world players that are getting ready for tournaments, and then from one day to the next, oh, he's not going to go.
Yeah, and it just shows the disorganization. Like we were chat on the chat. We were talking about disorganization and MLS and the organization that exists there compared to Liga MX
Ah,
and
yes,
stuff like
Pulido
this.
made a comment about his first impressions of Kansas City MLS is how organized they are.
They say noon for practice, and people actually show up at noon.
And Beto, what were you saying about calendar and
Oh yeah, they probably give him a Google Calendar, and they have like they have somebody wake him up and tell him, "Hey, come in. It's time for practice. Come down and get in your car, and we'll shuffle you off to practice. And oh, here's your Gatorade and some orange slices. Oh, here's make sure you're here for lunch. We have a free lunch in our cafeteria and all this stuff. And oh, there's snacks and stuff. And
we valet your car, you know.
and he's probably like, man,
Here's an
that
iPad, here's an iPad.
he's probably like, man, back in Guadalajara. He's probably like, my Porsche keeps on running to that tope and scraping the bottom of it, man. It's about to fall off. Shoot, man.
Oh man. It's funny because Pulido has already started to say a lot of things that are, you know, stirring the pot. He said that he took a he's stepping out of his comfort zone by coming to Kansas City and playing in the MLS versus staying at Chivas. And I just had to roll my eyes at that comment.
Well, there are just not as many emo bars in Kansas and the Shawnee Park area as
He's
there
gonna be
are
like,
in Guadalajara. So,
who's gonna be
yeah.
my barber now, man? I need to keep the emo haircut going.
I was actually very disappointed in Joel when Chivas won the championship. I asked him, I said, so to celebrate the championship, are you gonna cut your hair in the style of Alan Pulido? I would assume that you would have done that, Jaime, after such an important win
I
for
got that
Chivas.
haircut today, man.
Yeah, yeah. So there, I mean, you have the Pulido Bob, and so does that mean now that you're going to be a Sporting Kansas City? Are you going to keep an eye on Sporting Kansas City because of Pulido?
No, no, absolutely not. I
Is
mean,
his magnet strong enough to attract you?
no, absolutely not. I will obviously be seeing a bunch of highlights on Twitter because of how much do the N loves MLS and they can't wait to post goals and stuff. But um, I am curious though because I mean we're waiting on confirmation, but it seems like Javier Hernandez will be joining the LA Galaxy. At least that's what everyone's saying. So it will be curious to see, who ends up scoring more goals this season, Pulido or Chicharito. And I guess you can throw Vel into the mix, but I assume Vel is going to be scoring, 20 plus goals. I can't say the same for Chicharito or Pulido unless Pulido draws like 20 penalties.
Oh yeah, I don't see
Yeah, but
Pulido.
Alan Pulido was the scoring champion of Liga MX with what 9 goals?
Yeah, we'll
That's a
see.
little. That's a little. Like you said, the penalties. Chicharito, if he goes to LA Galaxy, LA Galaxy is they got a supporting cast
Well,
that
I'm
I think is
confused
better.
because during the season you were talking nonstop about how great
I think
Pulido
Pulido
was, and now
Pulido.
let's go penalty kicks. It's no big deal.
Oh, I said that during the season. Are you talking to Jaime?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, well, I was praising Pulido for what he did because he said he was going to do it and he went out and did it. Um,
Isn't that great?
And,
He got all those goals, and Chivas ended up in what 16th place.
and
Let's a tip of the hat to Alan Pulido for that.
but then I later realized that he was doing it for himself, trying to get a big contract in MLS. So for me, it will be interesting to see his transition to the MLS. Um, they actually have a long season format, so he'll have the opportunity to score. I don't know. I would say I would be surprised if he does more than 10 goals in 34 games. I think that's a pretty fair judgment. I think Chicharito could probably score 15 because he has Jonathan Dos Santos to feed him balls. Um, so it'll be interesting to see how all these players that are, you know, all these Mexican players that are going to MLS, and then all these Liga MX players going to the MLS, and see, because there's going to be an all-star game between Liga MX and MLS. So we might just see a bunch of Mexicans and some former MLS or Liga MX players play
There'll be more.
against.
There'll be more Mexicans on the MLS team than there will be on the Liga MX team.
Probably, man.
No, I think real quick, Chicharito, if he goes to LA Galaxy, he wins. If any Mexican wins the scoring title again, it's gonna be Chicharito. Velo might be second, but Pulido will be third, I think. But Chicharito is like the type of player who's gonna receive those like tap ins or be right in the box. Right, his positioning, like you say, is like excellent. So he's the guy that's gonna, if anyone's gonna win, that's Mexican, it'll be Chicharito. And also, real
You
quick,
think so? How many
yeah.
goals did Vela score last season?
He broke the record with like 34.
Yeah, I don't think.
Well, it takes a lot. I mean, he had a great season, but it takes a lot more for him to score goals. I mean, he has to get it, and usually he, does a little bit of dribbling, and he hits that left shot, that left foot shot.
Right.
Whereas Chicharito gets headers, or he gets a pass where he chests it down and strikes it in, or kicks it off his face, things like that. He's right in the box, right to get all the tap ins and stuff. So I think it's more possible for Chicharito, and I think his supporting cast, like you said, with JDS and whoever else is back there, can help him a
Yeah,
lot
he's
more
gonna
than
have.
Pulido.
Yeah, Pulido's gonna have to be.
I
I
don't know
mean,
who's on.
they handed him the number 9 jersey, so I really don't know Kansas City that well. Um, I just think he's gonna have a tough time. And I mean,
Kansas City is a weird place because it's in both Kansas and in Missouri. So you could be from Kansas City, Kansas, or you could be from Kansas City,
yeah,
Missouri.
that's
They're
weird.
two separate cities.
I wonder if he reached out to Amar Bravo and asked him how
Oh
he
yeah,
did it, how he how he put himself through that. Because
they,
Amar Bravo played there for a little bit.
yeah, I remember that.
He did, and he was well liked by the fans and by the players. It was a good
Yeah,
last couple of years for at the very tail end of Omar Bravo's career there in Sporting Kansas City. It's going to be, as far as Chicharito's concerned, as Chiquis was saying, I mean, people that makes me wonder, do they watch MLS games because the MLS, not every team, but a lot of teams, their style is to finish everything inside the 6 yard box. And I can't think of a better player on the planet to have as my finishing guy in the 6 yard box than Chicharito.
Yeah,
it's funny because I've been talking to a lot of MLS fans on Discord, on their own Discord server, and they're like, "Oh man, he's gonna be such a flop," and they're like, "He's not gonna be bigger than Beckham was," and I'm like, dude, this is like the perfect league for him, to be honest. Like he's gonna
Yeah, but how
be.
much of that is their reluctance to accept the fact that he's a really good player because he's Mexican?
Yeah, that could be it. And yeah, I was throwing a little bit of numbers at them, and they were like, "Wait, really? He scored over 100 goals in Europe?" I'm like, "Yep."
I
Wait,
mean,
really? He
who
scored. He scored
you know
59 goals for Man United? Like, yeah, he did.
Chicharito played what 4 years at Manchester United and ended up being their second or third highest goal scorer for the decade.
Third, yeah.
ooh, golazo.
Who scored? Pumas or Juarez?
Pumas tied it up 3-3.
Three
God bless
three.
those boys. God bless those boys.
One minute.
He
What
keeps
minute are
free.
we at?
49. Hey, real quick shout out to some of our guys in the chat: Randy Torres, Atlas fan, Rick Escutia, Joel is Joel is there. Varo from CDN. Who else? Oh, that's it. Um,
Well, I'm glad to have some folks
yeah, in the chat.
on the big chat.
Randy says something interesting though. He says MLS Mexican players versus Liga MX foreigners. I think that made me think of okay. First of all, I think Liga MX foreigners should win, but say MLS Mexican players versus Liga MX
The
Mexicans.
Liga MX Argentines.
No, like take away the foreigners. MLS Mexican players versus Liga MX Mexicans. Like say foreigners aren't allowed to be on the All Star team for Liga
Well, how
MX.
many? I mean, how many Mexican players are in? I mean, do they even have enough to field the team? I don't think they do. I think
Oh
there's like
shoot, I think they still win though. They even okay. Say Chicharito, Pulido, and Vela are an
Vela
MLS Mexican player
and
team,
Jonathan.
and Jonathan and all, and like even add some like the best gringos and everything, or whoever else, and then take the Liga
Bradley.
MX, but just restrict them to Mexicans. You might have like the entire Chivas team,
who would win
and
the game? Oh, the MLS team would.
I don't know, man. Maybe on paper you might say that, but I would think the Liga MX Mexicans might put up a
Well, where
fight.
would they play? Would they play it in Los Angeles or would they play it in Mexico City?
Oh, you know it's
If they
gonna
played in
be
Mexico City, the Liga MX team would win.
it's gonna
But
be in the states.
well, then I would say it would be it would be the MLS team.
Yeah, maybe put it in LA. It's like a sort of a that'd be like a neutral.
What would an LA Mexican do? You know, who would they root for?
That's the biggest debacle. I was like seeing the people's reactions to Chicharito joining Galaxy. Is like, oh, well, I root for
Here we go.
LAFC.
Here we go,
You,
Galaxy. Here we go.
yeah,
I
you
saw
say
this girl. She said I got to root for both LA Galaxy and LAFC now because it's Chicharito and Vela. I'm just like, oh my god.
oh yeah, dude. I see people saying, "Oh, I'm gonna get a LA Galaxy jersey now." I'm like, what the heck are you talking about? Well, a lot of
Why is
people
Yeah,
that? Why is that bad?
because it's
it's
like you're
just
just
cringe,
yeah, it's just like you're following, you're on
cringeworthy.
the bandwagon. I guess bandwagoning is no problem nowadays, but like just because the guy is Mexican and you're Mexican
Here's the
American.
thing, like I understand like fans that just will support a player, no matter
It
where
almost
they
seems
go.
like they would, that might be, from a team perspective, that might be one of the reasons why we're considering signing the guy.
Yeah.
Oh
I
yeah,
mean,
exactly.
are you kidding me? The city of Los Angeles, two of the biggest Mexican stars in rival teams, is like it's like the biggest deal, man. It's like gonna make the MLS relevant again, and we already have this sort of like team Vela, team Chicharito. We see people all the time argue about who's the best Mexican striker.
They don't like each other anyway. So,
I wouldn't say that.
I think that when they were kids, I think they had issues.
I don't know. I will
Uh,
say that I think that Vela looks at Chicharito like, hey, bro, like I got banned for 6 months for throwing an orgy, and you and Layun do the same thing, and mum's the word. I could see something like that.
well,
I
I mean,
could.
just in seeing the body language when they were doing qualifier and stuff, when they were like in the on the U17s and U20s, there's definitely something there.
Well, I
I
mean,
think it's been there
if
for.
you if
Have they
if you
worked
want to
through it?
go
Maybe.
back to 2005, Chicharito didn't even make the World Cup squad.
Well, I understand that, but I'm saying just on the field, after that in the U19s, just seeing the way they interacted with each other was very interesting. And even as professionally, even when they did play together on Mexico, you could kind of tell that there was some friction there.
Hmm.
And I mean, this was a while ago. I don't know if maybe they worked it out, but
I'm sure they have,
I think that it's going to be a very interesting rivalry
but I
in
would
Los Angeles.
I would love to see if Chicharito would play the devil's advocate and sort of keep like start trash talking. I think it would be really interesting to see that played out, play the narrative.
Somos muy chingones, y la realidad.
But obviously, there's a lot of criticism from fans saying, "Hey, you have this opportunity to come back to Chivas. It's the perfect time. You fell out of favor at Sevilla. We could afford you.
But
Come back to Chivas."
that is
You
just
know.
such a joke. They couldn't afford it. They couldn't
Well,
afford it.
all right. So here's the thing, because I remember when Chivas announced the signing that he was going to go to Manchester United, and they had this huge poster that said, "Te vas como héroe y regresas como leyenda." You know, you leave as a hero,
Yeah.
come back as a legend, and that was the assumption that he would come back to Chivas 10 years later.
Whose assumption? Whose assumption?
The fans, bro, you know, this whole romanticism. Like Chicharito left before he actually did anything with Chivas. We got into a Libertadores final, and we didn't even get to use him because he was already at Man United. So it was like we didn't even get to, you know, reap the fruits of his benefit, whatever the phrase is. We didn't
Enjoy
get
the
to.
fruits of his labor.
Yeah, exactly, because he peaked with us, and then we went to the World Cup.
But he didn't peak with y'all.
Well, not peak, but
Chicharito had
he was. Yeah, he didn't peak, but I'm just saying, like, he was
stretch.
on this crazy goal streak, man, and he was, and we got all the way to the Libertadores final, and it was just all coming together, and then we were gonna have the World Cup, and then it was just like we didn't even get to enjoy and win any. He didn't win
They had to
anything.
go to Valle de Bravo to make their sandwich commercials. It was more important.
I think the mistake was allowing Chicharito to go to Manchester United when he should have said, "Hey, can we just have him for one more game and then he's yours? Can we just have him for that Libertadores final, and then he can join the Manchester in the preseason or whatever." It would have it might have made a difference. It might have not, but it would have just been nice to know that we had everybody at our disposal to at least try and win that final. And then you kind of leave. We had that the first game at the Chivas Stadium was his despedida. You know what I mean? So we
Right.
always assumed that he was going to come back and help us, man. And this was the time to do it. And he had already taken a pay cut to even leave West Ham. He was making 145 100,000 pounds a week at West Ham. He was making a lot of money, and he took a pay cut just to stay competitive and stay in Europe at Sevilla. So money wasn't an issue for him. So he could have easily came back to Chivas, been a legend, win some silverware, and then if he wanted to from there, he could take that MLS contract to retire. You know what I mean? It does hurt a little bit.
Well, Chivas could pay him $8 million a year, and that wouldn't be a problem. Why does he have to discount his price to go back to Chivas?
And I don't think that
I mean,
money is an issue. I don't think he's going to be making $7 million at Chivas, but I do think he could have still made $3-4 million
Well,
a
I
season.
thought that if should he be paid as a legend for him to come back as a legend?
I mean, Chivas can match. It's not that. I don't think money
he
was an
shouldn't.
issue.
Well, a legend
Then
is a
why-
legend. A legend is
Yeah,
old.
why not? Good lord.
A legend.
Why don't they?
A legend indicates you're old, like you're at the end of your
I-
career. So you shouldn't probably be paid as much as like at your peak. He's coming back from Europe, which everyone, all the haters would say, "Oh, he failed, so he's coming back." He's coming back with his tail
Yeah,
between his
Chicharito
legs.
failed in Europe. That
He's-
is the
Well, okay, he
the-
he didn't. He
the
failed.
dumbest-
Okay. Is he starting? His goal is to compete against the other players in Sevilla and start. He
Uh-huh.
failed, so he's coming
Right.
back.
So
I'm not
he's-
saying his entire
so his-
entire
his-
European stint is a failure. I'm saying he failed at getting a starting role, so he's coming back.
Yeah, after 5-6 months, which is to me a little bit disappointing because they literally sold their only other striker. It was only him and Luke De Jong, and he didn't want to battle it out.
But yeah,
And
that's
Sevilla-
sort of beside the point though. Like
Yeah.
I think he still should. I think he's like I agree with you, Jaime, that he still could. And I don't know the finances for Chivas, but I think he still could have taken even a smaller,
Yeah.
a bigger pay cut, another pay cut, and gone to Chivas and help them. While he's still not
Able.
while he's still able, and then have enjoy the place where he was brought up, enjoy his club in Chivas. Possibly bring them a title where like you said, they're set to
I
win the
think-
title this year. He could win a
I
title
think
with
it's two
Chivas, be
things.
done.
Yeah, it would have been perfect. It would have been perfect. Like this was the right time. Pulido had just left. We have Macias, sure. Pocho, unfortunately got removed from the team, so we have 10 million to spend. We could have paid the transfer. He could have made about this. Damn you! John. He could have been making the same as he was at Sevilla. and won a title, and then he can go to MLS or whatever. It doesn't matter. But I just think it's weird that like he kept saying, "No, I'm not gonna go to MLS. No, I'm not gonna go to MLS," and then finally he's just like, "All right, fine, let's do it."
I mean, maybe
Dude, that music is
now we're
killing me.
hearing that it's not that it might fall through for something, but I mean,
Yeah,
Hey, Pumas got another one.
they did.
Outstanding. Yeah.
oh shoot, I didn't even see
I
that.
will say there's probably one big reason why he didn't want to come back to Chivas, and it probably has nothing to do with Chivas, and it's the Mexican media. It's the press.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing that I don't like about
Well,
Chicharito.
if that's the case, then he wouldn't have gone to LA.
Why? Everybody
Because
else loves him. It's just Mexico's that hates him.
because you don't think that the offices, the press companies in Mexico, the media companies don't have offices in LA.
Yeah, but it's a more professional league, and there's
I mean,
also
you're not going to be on Televisa all the time because of TUDN.
I think Dudene, um, and I've seen this ever since they got the rights back to MLS. They've done nothing but praise that league blindedly. Even when they bring up the discussion of, "Oh, dude, come on, man! Like Liga MX is so much better," they're the ones pushing the narrative that the gap isn't closing and or the gap is closing and they're getting better. So I don't think it's as bad as if he was in Mexico and you have to do a record and Medio Cierto and Azteca and all those yellow journalism companies.
That's a good point. Like the middle class, the mid tier journalists in Mexico might be the more vicious and the more guys trying to ambitiously get their little clicks and stuff and their little sound bites. And that's why Tuca gets so upset over there and things. But yeah, oh,
You know,
in
when I
the
first started
U.S.,
to follow some of those guys, and those guys are just like they try to make everything into some just ridiculous. I mean, every little thing
yeah,
into some ridiculous. Is it just me, or does Juarez look like you're playing a team of nothing but refs?
Are they wearing like a bright neon jersey?
yeah,
I mean, seriously, it looks like you're playing and with the black shorts, and it just looks. And then the ref is wearing a yellow shirt, so you can't tell who's who. They have the exact same uniform on. You know, it's very strange.
Speaking
Uh,
about Juarez, I don't know if you guys caught it, but someone said, "Oh, we cannot wait for to watch uh the women's team of Juarez." And they showed like one of the girls on the team, and then found out she was like 17, and it just looked terrible. It looked terrible, man. It was just a shit show. I think they deleted the tweet, but
there's another goal.
then it,
another one.
Yeah, they on a break. Oh shoot, wait, they might call it back.
Wow, looks like we're missing the game of the week, man. Holy smokes!
Yeah, they called it back.
What's the score?
It's 4-3 Pumas. It should have been. It would have been five, but I think he was offsides.
Wow,
Yeah, I saw that. I saw
7
that.
goals.
I saw that company. Like, I mean, they didn't back up off it. They didn't apologize or anything. They sort of like kept on with the joke that she was underage, and that's like,
Really?
yeah, it's sort of messed up.
Wow.
But yeah, we've been there. Like we went to MLS games, San Jose, Houston, and you see, I guess Mexican media or Hispanic media, and then there's the Gringo media. So there's a mix of both, and then the Gringo media, of course, is more cheerleader-ish, and then you have the team media that's there, and of course they're going to be supporting of their players and coaches with their questions and things. So
So we talked about Pocho, Cherito Room. What else is on the docket? Any other team that impressed you this weekend or last weekend?
other than Pumas, no.
Did Pumas?
I saw the Cruz Azul game a little bit, and they Elias scored a pretty nice goal, and I thought they were gonna end
Oh
up doing
yeah,
well.
they ended up
They ended
losing.
up losing to Atlas at home.
Yeah, but they got a red card with when Orbelli. I mean, he had a
Oh yeah,
it was a bad tackle, but I mean, it wasn't like malicious. It was just it was consequential that I mean he had to be red carded for it, and he knew that, and the whole team knew it. It was just an unfortunate play, and
Shout out to
he
Randy.
stepped
His
out.
team actually won a game for once. Atlas.
We actually we have an Atlas fan.
Randy in the chat.
I mean, we've been wondering for years who that person was. Now we know.
It's the one
Oh
Atlas fan.
man.
Actually, last week, yeah, we were talking about how passionate their fans last week. I think were.
It is outside of Tigres. I think as far as atmosphere, I think it's probably second to none, or the second best outside of Tigres rather. They're just it's constant. It looks like a lot of fun. Uh, I'm sure it could get a little hairy in there in some of those piles, but on TV it looks great.
I will say this. El ambiente que lleva el Jalisco is better than el Acron. I went to a Atlas Santos game a few years back on a Saturday, and it was just popping. And it just helps because of the location. It's in the heart of Guadalajara, and they got all
Right.
these yeah birria and all these tortas ahogadas, and it's just such a dope spot to be at. And then the next day, I went to the Chivas America game in Zapopan, and it's just a completely different vibe, man. Because there's nothing there. There's just straight up the stadium, and then there's just nothing else around it. So um, when Chivas go play at Atlas in Jalisco, it's nice. It's our second home.
Well, it's your first home.
Right.
And you got to park
Yeah,
in
that
someone's
is
garage.
unfortunate. You know, in that stadium, it seems like the way it's designed, it seems like it's not designed to hold the noise in. It seems like they let the noise kind of seep out of the gaps they have underneath the
Are you talking about the toilet seat?
yeah, which is very unfortunate.
Yeah, Estadio Akron looks like a toilet seat. Oh,
It is. No, I do say that Pumas had I mean, they scored more than one goal in a game, which I mean, this game is insane. I can't remember the last time Pumas scored four goals in a game. It's probably been like 15, 16 years. It's been a while, at least with the way that they've been playing lately. But there were, I think it was. Didn't Toluca get a nice road win in
I'll run through the
Chepo's
scores
first
right
game
now.
back?
Yeah, so Monarcas lost to Toluca. Chepo's first game back, 1-0. Tijuana at home beats Santos 2-1. Cruz Azul lost to Atlas 2-1. We talked about that. León beat Querétaro 3-1. Chivas won against Juarez 2-0. Tigres and Atlético San Luis 0-0. No goals.
Yeah,
And then Pumas.
it was a
That was
snoozer.
a snooze fest, man. I'm not sure what happened. But I mean, I think that's how it is with Tigres. They're always off to a slow start. And then they just, week 5, they're just on all cylinders.
I wonder at what point people are gonna start asking if Tuca's just is just gonna mail it in like he did when he was on the national team.
Was that?
When he was on the national team, they didn't practice, they didn't do anything. They just played uh like in this last one where they were just a friendly. I mean, I would have done the same thing. I mean, there's no point. But they just played football like the whole time at the
I actually,
car.
I had a coach like that. We literally only trained twice a week, and all we did was play cascarita the whole time. No training, no drills, no nothing. He said, "Hey, we're only here for 2 hours. Let's just make the most of it and play cascarita." I'm like, "What the hell?" And I
You're
remember one of the players that had joined Tigres. He had came from Europe, and he's like, "Yeah, his coaching styles are antiquated and embarrassing."
you're lucky Juan isn't your coach. You'd be getting a earful. You'd be running laps, doing drills. El profe.
No le voy a discutir con usted.
Did you guys
I haven't.
listen to? I think it was yesterday's show. They had Cuauhtémoc and Germán Villa and Braulio Luna on the show yesterday.
Yeah, that was
It's
hilarious.
pretty
I
funny.
Ron posted some of the some of the stories.
Cuauhtemoc was bunking with Germán Villa for like 3 months, and I guess every morning Cuauhtemoc would grab him, grab his ass in the morning, every morning for like 3 months.
That's pretty funny.
Just like the first thing he did every morning. And then finally he just, spoke up and said, "Hey man, what the hell? Stop doing that." And then he was like, "Oh, today you woke up with some anger. What's wrong?"
That is actually pretty.
That's
It's
funny,
it was
man.
hilarious. It was hilarious how they talked about like getting the peseta or taking the metro and going
Oh
to
yeah, yeah, yeah.
where they're going to what did they call it?
Training,
Tepito. No, because Cuauhtemoc
guapa.
had to go to Tepito, and Germán Villa, I forget where he went home to or where his house was. It wasn't Iztapalapa, I forget where.
Calle Fresa or something, right?
Yeah,
They're
they
all
had like
making.
named Palacio, like different names that
Yeah.
of the neighborhoods. And I was like, man, these chilangos are hilarious the way they were talking and stuff. And the story of Villa, like uh, whenever they were leaving the metro, he would like grab people that were sleeping by the hair and tell them to wake up, and then they would like take off in the metro, and they wouldn't be able to do anything to him. He would like pull a cheap shot on him. But yeah, just like Villa,
Yeah.
the guy who's picked on in his room by Cuauhtemoc.
When he was talking about how like they took the bus and he would pick on sleeping like people, I'm like, yeah, that's kind of messed up, bro.
That is.
Like,
They're
why are
like
you admitting this, bro?
they're
Like, this is
taking.
kind of.
uh, I used to do nothing like that, but funny stuff like that. In your youth, you do crazy things.
Yeah, it was.
I like Bernardo. He's a good analyst on TV. He calls a good game.
I don't think
He
I've heard him
sees
yet.
stuff differently. Oh, you've heard him. Trust me,
Huh.
because he does a bunch of games. His voice is very unique, which also
Okay.
helps. But
Yeah, that does help.
he does a good job. It's he got stone robbed by Vasco Aguirre though. That was I thought
So
that
did
was just that was a big mistake.
Yeah,
You
there's a
know,
few
for
players.
anything else other than to have just a really good uh, experience, but just maybe to run practices, to try different things of how the other team's going just to have a guy like that to to help the other guys out. It's unfortunate. I think that World Cup. I mean, if we're going to go into the bitterness stuff, the 2010 one to me is the most bitter because I think they had the most talent and they just wasted it. It's very
I
unfortunate.
feel we say that every 4 years, though.
Oh no, no. I mean, this last one, I don't think anybody expected Mexico to go anywhere near uh, past the round of 16. The Germany game obviously was huge, but it was just a group game, and that was like the worst part about that whole thing was that you know how great Mexico beat Germany. It would have been better if they did it in the round of 16 instead of the first game. You know, where it equaled the same amount as beating Korea. It's just unfortunate
Yeah,
time.
and it's funny because like this whole debate about like players settling and going to the MLS and like the reason why a lot of people get upset is because we want to go to that fifth game. We want to be a better country globally, and by making these moves, we're not getting better. That's the whole argument. And then I think you guys tweeted earlier about saying like, "Oh yeah, tell that to Hugo and Campos and Cuauhtemoc," and because they also played in the MLS at one point. So has
People
anything
forget,
changed,
and
man?
brings this up when Jorge Campos was the goalie in the '98. He was playing for Chicago Fire.
Was he a striker though, or was he a goalie?
He was a goalie, but he was the goalie for
Because
Chicago Fire.
I know at Fire he would sub himself into the game, right?
Demo almost rejuvenated the very tail end of his career because he was playing in MLS.
It was all tail. Well, I don't know about Campos, but I think all
Yeah,
the
but I mean,
MLS was tail end. I think the hype and the following of MLS by Mexican Americans.
Campos was in the World Cup in '94, right?
Okay.
mhm.
He's starter 98 but and he also was on the '02 World Cup team. So in the middle of his etapa, he was playing in MLS.
Yeah, I mean, so there's unique situations. Jonathan, he's like a top guy. He's a starter for the national team in MLS,
Right.
legit guy. So there's always like that one
And that's fine.
guy.
And that's see, here's the big picture. Don't you want as many Mexicans as possible playing in as many leagues as possible?
And then as many leagues, you said?
Yes.
Well,
Yes.
this goes, I guess so, but this goes back to, and we've had this discussion also, and I went on like a Twitter conversation with some guys about like the discussion of Mexicans being in Europe and in all these leagues, but the Mexican national team still hasn't made it past the round of
You cut
16.
out.
They still haven't made it past the round of 16. They still haven't improved their state in the World Cup,
So
and
you think it's
obtaining.
a moot point? It doesn't matter
Yeah,
if
so
we
like
got
all these
10
European.
players in Europe
Yeah,
or
exactly. Back when
if we
Mexico
have
had the majority, and I was looking up stats and stuff. Back when Mexico had the majority of players
But
in
again, Chicky,
Mexico.
it doesn't matter where they play. You're absolutely right. What matters is we need to have a whole bunch more of them playing.
Okay,
That's what
yeah,
matters.
yeah, exactly. Say like five of them are playing with PSV.
Have yeah, not necessarily just PSV. Just how nice would it be to see uh, as many Mexicans in Europe as there are Argentines in Liga MX? Where instead of just having one striker in the Premier League, maybe you have a couple of strikers, a couple of midfielders, a
yeah,
couple
our
of you know.
pool is so small.
But there also has to like,
That's if Mexico wants. That's what has to get better for Mexico. They have to have as many players playing and as many of the best leagues as possible.
but you can also
I
look
mean,
at
it
it.
doesn't. You're right. It doesn't help to have two guys playing in Europe. It helps to have 50 guys playing in Europe
Okay, so say you do have
because
that
out of those
amount.
50 guys, with the numbers game, you're going to have four or five of them are going to be playing in gigantic games week in and week out against. So the best part about playing these gigantic games is that you're playing teams that also have gigantic rosters. I remember one time I think it was the '06 World Cup, and it was Argentina. I want to say it was either Ivory Coast or Holland. It was Ivory Coast, and every single one of those players. I mean, even some of the Nigerians, like, man, this is gonna be one hell of a game. And sure enough, it was. But that's where Mexico needs. I mean, if you want them to get past the round of 16, they have to. Yes, they all have to play, and they all have to play well, and they have to play. You know, and as many good leagues as possible. It'd be great to have. It is a numbers game, and Mexico just doesn't have the numbers.
But I think I look at it this way though. Brazil and Argentina are in, I think, the situation that you're talking about. Their last World Cup, I think, is 2002 for Brazil, and then 98 or something for Argentina, which is a while ago. So even with all the talent that they have,
All
that
right,
still
the
hasn't given them
French.
recent results. Now you take a look, and we've talked about like the German team, even the French team, or the Spanish team, where they had a base in Barcelona, or they had a base in Bayern Munich,
But
and
the
that
Spanish team has had a
cohesion.
base in Real Madrid for almost every one of their teams, and it was just because they had some incredibly special dudes that they ended up winning.
Yeah, that's a good point. But I think the cohesion, the chemistry is something more important. Where I imagine if all the Mexicans that are in Europe played in like the top teams in Mexico, I don't see a huge downtick
Well,
in
I'll
results.
tell you the ideal, Chiquis, is to have Chivas get really good, make them the base, and then you can sprinkle in you know some gigantically talented players. Like the guy who plays at Valencia. Let me put it this way: I think Mexico from 1 to 11, I think can compete very well with anybody on the planet. I don't think there's any doubt in that. They've proven it over and over again. Unfortunately, when you get from when you go from 12 to 22, that's where Mexico has a problem. Imagine how great it would have been when Mexico plays Holland in the World Cup, and they lost their starting defensive midfielder because of a card accumulation, and instead of bringing in somebody like fucking
Severo Mesa.
it ended up being Carlos Salcido. But imagine bringing in somebody, someone immensely talented guy who was the DM for Atletico Madrid, right? And he was your backup.
Yeah,
I see
Not. I
what you
mean, I love
mean.
Carlos. So that to me it would help.
Is the
Now,
difference?
now you're right, Chiki. Says it helped Argentina. Has it helped Brazil? But do you ever doubt in your mind that either of those have the capability to make a final, ever?
oh yeah, it's always there. Even Argentina's made it recently, so
I mean,
I mean, you
it's so hard to win a World Cup, but we're not talking about winning a World Cup. We're talking about like just
let
making
me put
it
it this way: when
fat
Argentina
farther.
or Brazil beat anybody, are you ever surprised?
nope.
Oh,
Nope.
seriously, are you ever surprised when Argentina or Brazil beat anybody?
Not really.
Would you love for Mexico to be at that level?
Yeah, that would be ideal.
Exactly. So, I mean, yes, it sucks that they haven't, that they haven't made finals or semis or whatever it is. It's true, but they have, they could probably field two teams. On let's be honest, two teams that you would not be shocked if either of them made a final. So that would be lovely. I do have a question I wanted to ask y'all, and this is something about the MLS thing. And do you think at what point does Liga MX start to worry that,
Worry
as Jaime
about
put
what?
about their own marketability outside of Mexico, or I mean, or is that their thing? I mean, do they just not care? Because as you pointed out, Jaime, they're going to have an MLS Liga MX All Star game, and there could end up being more Mexicans on the MLS team than on the Liga MX team.
Yeah,
It'll be interesting.
I think they should have been worrying a long time ago. But Joel brings something up that you made me think of just now. He says why John gotta give these scenarios that we may never see. So like we hear about MLS fans saying that MLS is gonna be the top league in like 10 years or 20 years. We've heard that like years ago. If this keeps on going and like and their wishes get granted, all these guys like the Ronaldos and the Messis, instead of going to Europe, go to MLS initially, and MLS does become like a league, a top league. If all these Mexican players like Pulido and all these guys that are going in right now get a start, they they're going to be part of like the top league. And if Liga MX is doing their little integration with them, the Americas might end up taking. Could there be a scenario where the Americas take over the top continent of football over Europe? And then Mexico is already part of that. So that's
Honestly, I think that is a very.
I don't think it'll ever happen.
I think it's plausible.
I don't think it'll
with
happen.
money though, with money and finances that the U.S.
Yeah,
has,
but the thing about
they're going to bring
one
over
thing
the
that you can't
Portuguese,
buy
the
is
Spaniards.
no, no, no. But you cannot buy passion, and there is no passion here for the game. Like
That's a
I
good point.
went to a Buffalo Wild Wings on Saturday for lunch, and it was the biggest mistake ever because it was packed to the gills with a bunch of football fans, and every single play they were cheering and going crazy. When have you ever seen that for an MLS game? Not once, man. Maybe in a obscure like bar. I'm sure in the East Coast soccer is bigger than here, but you'll never see that kind of passion out here. And yeah, you can convince a lot of players to come play here, and the money's here, and but it will never be as big as it is in Europe.
But does it have to be?
And I'm not concerned about as far as MLS poaching Liga MX players. That's fine with me because it just gives more opportunity. At least in my perfect world, it gives more opportunities for the young players to make a name for themselves. I think that's the important thing. Like I don't care if you poach the extranjeros de Liga MX, because I mean that's just one spot that you can give to someone in the academy and give them a shot.
Well, what?
I think the
Um,
biggest takeaway is just to bring in talent from your own country, man. Like Chivas are the only team doing it.
Well, Vardo on the chat earlier brought up a point. He said like friends that he knew that didn't really follow soccer would always ask him when is Zlatan coming to play in New York FC and stuff, so that they want to go see Zlatan because they heard about Zlatan. So I think if the U.S. is all of a sudden getting the superstars like Ronaldo, like the Ronaldos and the Messis, if all these guys or even like the top Brazilian players go to MLS, then all these guys are going to be creeping out, and it might just convert the United States into a soccer loving country. You might see that passion come out here,
Maybe.
and there might be like a little conversion going. I mean, you're still gonna have the football fans and stuff like that, but there might be a lot more interest when you have the big names like there are in Europe out there. But yeah, like as a base, like as a like the founding of soccer, the passion, the historic passion of soccer is all in Europe and it's not in the U.S. And that's a good point you bring up.
Yeah. I mean, it's just it, it's such an old sport, man. Like a lot of these clubs are over 100 years old in Europe, and we all know that it's not about club. It goes so much deeper than that. It's about religion. If you look at the Scottish league, Celtic versus Rangers, that goes back even farther. You look at Everton and Liverpool and like just the social status, um
Yeah,
Boca
so they
River.
have a 100-year, in some cases longer head start.
Yeah, so I mean, like you don't really see because United States is a first world country. You don't see type of like you really think that New York was it Red Bull and New York City like, do you think there's an actual rivalry there? No, that's fabricated. There's no, you know what I mean? It's just it doesn't exist.
Right.
The
Well, it does
LA
exist.
the LA versus the El Tráfico they call it. Like, well, like would you even call that a rivalry? No, because like it's never gonna get to the point where they throw rocks at someone's bus. You know what I mean? Like it just will never get to that point here. I don't think.
Uh, I mean,
Never know.
it's certainly going to be a rivalry. Does it have to be validated by the amount of violence that the fans show toward each other? Then I'm not so sure. But football is big in this country, and it's they do. It makes me wonder just how different it would be if the one because they had two games of football that follow different rules. If they ended up adopting this one.
I so it's funny that you
Because
mentioned
back in
that.
the early part of the 20th century, soccer was huge in this country because it was an immigrant sport. It was
Yeah.
it was math. It was World War II kind of iced that, and it didn't.
So
It never reappeared until the 70s.
when I was at that lunch at Buffalo Wild Wings and I saw the passion and how crazy people were like I just looked at my coworkers and like I wish I could see someone as passionate about this for soccer. Like just even like half of that. Even half like if I could just see some type of like just passion like and I told him like the way everyone here is passionate about like the 49ers trying to win a Super Bowl, that is how it is every single game day in like England or in Argentina. Like it's a big freaking deal. And I don't know if we'll get to that point. I will say though, kind of just to tie this into like American football, like the whole documentary about Aaron Hernandez came out, and they were kind of hinting towards like how football's a violent sport and like the brain damage that it does. And I'm like, man, this would be a perfect time for the MLS to be like, hey, this is a safer sport, and you don't have to worry about having concussions. And, I think the MLS should make a campaign and try and convince, young kids that it's cool to play soccer instead of playing football.
Well, I don't think the young kids is where you lose them. I think the parents put the young kids, and they're pretty stable there. But whenever you get into high school, then it's like who's the coolest? Like who when you're in high school, who's the pep rally for? Who are the cheerleaders cheering for at the pep rally? Not the soccer team. It's the football team. So that's where people like, oh, I'm dumping soccer, man. I'm gonna go be a wide receiver.
Mm.
So I think at the
There's,
teenage
I mean, yeah,
years,
but football is actually, I mean, there is a pretty serious decline in the amount of kids that are actually playing high school football. It's actually gone down, chickies.
Why? It's
As great as
because
all that sounds.
they're
yeah,
all
that
trying
is
out for the Fortnite varsity team.
that's another issue.
It's because
It's all esports now, baby. Let's go.
it's
One v
I think
one.
it has more to do with head injuries more than anything else. So
Because
it
you hear that argument all the time. Oh, if best athletes played soccer instead of,
that is just such a
we would
terrible.
be the best country in the world if LeBron James was a, like, bro, just like, are you serious
Could you
right now?
imagine what Lionel Messi could do to could do to LeBron if LeBron was like a central defender? I mean, just how easily he could uh, turn him into a
Well, the
I
point,
would.
like it's a deeper
like a
point to
trumpet puppet.
that statement might be like an ignorant statement from people, but if you look into it like in a deeper perspective, imagine if the United States had this history of soccer like Argentina did, and 100 years ago, soccer teams were
Well, that's my
growing
point.
and had the history.
And like I said, I mean, it was more popular even than the NFL
No, but like
back in the.
say the evolution of the United States and the soccer community
Mhm.
in the United States, the soccer teams was the same as Argentina, but in the United States. And a LeBron James was born in a country where soccer was so passionate, just the way it is in Argentina. Would he not be with his well, he's sort of, a little bit tall, but would he
So,
not be a great soccer player if he grew up in Argentina? Like, yeah, just
yeah.
move all these athletes to Argentina. How would they be? Would they be, there's
I
no
mean,
basketball, there's no football, it's just soccer.
look at Kobe Bryant, right? He loves the sport, because if not mistaken, he grew up in like Barcelona, right? Or in like
In
Italy.
Milan.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's an
So he
international
had a
guy.
different upbringing than most Americans, and that's why he has a connection to the game, So if we were, yeah, I guess the thing is though, I think the biggest mistake, right, for the states is like they didn't have a professional league, right? Is because I mean the MLS is what, 94, 1994. It's a
25
very
years old. This is their
yeah
25th anniversary.
yeah. So it's such a young league. I think that's why, like there is no passion for it. Who knows? That might change in another 25 years. I think things will be dramatically different.
It's going to be interesting to see just how much more the relationship between Liga MX and MLS evolves because it's going to evolve even more
Yeah. For
later
those
this year
hoping
with the leagues coming.
for a Superliga, or like, the two countries joining one, it's just not going to happen. It's too big. The country's too big.
Well, I think what could happen, and I think it is going to be, I think that there's going to be games added to their regular season schedule, uh, kind of like an interleague play that are going to count toward their respective league like totals. I do think that that's going to happen. It's probably going to happen pretty soon.
They're going to do another Superliga?
No, what I'm saying
Oh,
is that there's going to be, instead of just jornada 17, there's going to be jornada after jornada 20, and three of the teams are playing are going to be from MLS.
I don't see that happening.
Oh, I do.
I think they'll try and do another reattempt of Superliga. Just make it
Oh,
its own separate thing.
Cheekies, you got to be kidding me.
What's up?
Ay,
Oh,
What
ay,
happened?
ay.
yeah, they tied earlier.
Oh, well, I was wondering why you got so quiet.
Oh, no.
It's like the end of the season, man. They had it all. You know that if they would have won this, if they would have kept that scoreline, right now they would be super leaders. They would have 6 points, and everybody else would be in their dust, man.
4-4. Wow, what a way to set the tone for the rest of the teams for the rest of the
Well,
week.
they had a chance to win 5-4, and this dude's just he had the replay. He is just wide. I mean, there's no one in front of him, and this guy ends up like shooting, trying to through three guys, and they're just like looking at us like, what is the matter with you?
So looking forward to the weekend. We just had the first game of Jornada Dos. Tomorrow will be San Luis versus Cruz Azul at 5 o'clock. Atlas versus Puebla at 7. So Atlas have a real possibility of having back-to-back wins. This is a great opportunity for Cruz Azul to bounce back from their loss. And then on Saturday we have Rayados versus Monarcas. Pachuca against Chivas, America versus Tigres, which is going to be the game of the week. And then Sunday we
They're
have
gonna have to live up to this one that just happened. This juggernaut of
Toluca
goals.
Necaxa, Querétaro Tijuana, and Santos versus León. America, this is going to be their first game back after runner-up.
Same as Rayados.
Rayados. Yeah.
That's a nice Saturday night there.
We can agree that America have the tougher schedule.
Well, maybe this week.
Yeah. Like,
But it is at home though.
You had an extra week to, collect your thoughts and think about what went wrong. And the fans are still expecting you to return to the final. So this is, I can see America implode this season just because of the amount of pressure they have.
Well, they had pressure last season too. So
yeah, man, it's just like
my question is, this week Juan is gonna have he's gonna be sweating with a little controversy going on, like a conflict
That's
of
right.
of
Profe
conflict of
Camarrayas is
stripes.
he's gonna be majorly conflicted. If you don't know how Profe Camarrayas was when he was coaching a team, had a there was a tryout arranged of one of his players down in Pachuca. So Profe went down there and he gave us a report about the facilities and the installations, the field, and everything else, and how the tryout was conducted. And he was just going on and on about how great Pachuca is, and just I mean, he couldn't stop gushing about him. So we asked him. I thought, very politely, we said, so was there a cooler? Was there a cooler on the field while you were watching this? So I said, yes. So was there Kool-Aid? I said, did you drink the Kool-Aid? He goes, yes, I did. And for about 2 or 3 years, he was every time Pachuca would play Chivas, his heart was being pulled in a couple of different directions. So it's going to be. You're right. I forgot about that, Chiquis. Profe Cambia is going to have the Dos Mujeres Un Camino looked like that Eric Estrada had all those years ago. Which way is he going to go?
so
Who
Pachuca
gets
lost.
who gets Profe's rose?
Pachuca lost to Pumas, so I expect Chivas to get a win on the road.
Really?
Yeah.
This will be a
Pachuca has a
test.
great stadium because the fans are all just right on top of the team. It looks like a really cool little spot. I would like to see it.
Yeah, I don't think Chivas should worry tomorrow or Saturday. I think they can get a win on the road.
So 6 points for Chivas, super. So they're going to be super líder from the jornada dos all the way to the 17.
Let's not get carried away, but I think that they can win this game.
Are they going to win it 8-0 or 10-0?
I think these next couple jornadas are going to be pretty accessible teams. We won't actually see our first real team until the fifth game of the season against Tigres. But these next couple scrimmages are going to be pretty. As long as the team keeps on being as aggressive as they were in their home, they'll be fine.
Well, like we said, they have a good coach and they have a good GM and they should have good players. It should be a pretty good combination to make sure that they all get it all worked out.
Yeah. After the Juarez game, I was waiting for a little bit of a challenge for Chivas in this huge lineup to see um, see what they're made of, and this might be a good.
Los Chivas Galácticos.
Yeah. I'm just
So can we
waiting for
call
the
it
first
Space
failure.
Chivas?
What was that?
Space
Should we call them
Chivas.
the Space Chivas?
Space Chivas, the
Since it's the Chivas Galácticos.
the space goat, coast to coast.
So let me ask you one last question before we wrap it up here. Do you think, Jaime, that at any point in the season will the Chi Hermanos really just is it going to happen?
Um, as long as we stay healthy, that is my biggest concern. We did lose. I was looking forward to seeing Pocho Guzman. I like the way he plays, and it's just unfortunate what happened. But I mean, we still have a stacked team. I mean, I would hate to beat Dena right now because he must be losing sleep over who he starts, man. There's just so much depth, something I haven't seen in a long time. And also, don't sleep on some of the canteranos because, I mean, we have Beltran, who's a stud in the midfield, and he was one of the players of the week. So it's just healthy competition. As long as everybody stays healthy. Will say, though, that you reminded me, it is a pretty strenuous schedule for the next 10 days. They're going to have 5 games. So that's a lot of
Spare
football.
me. Well, you just told us that they have the best depth, the best players, the best everything. So it should be no
I'm just
problem.
saying it's like they have two games against Dorados in between these Liga MX games. So they're going to be tested.
I think they'll pull through. I think they'll be all right. I
Yeah.
think they'll be all right. Chickies, thanks very much for hopping on. We'll have to do this again next week.
Yeah, no problem. Good time.
And even though Pumas did not win, at least they didn't. At least they didn't lose, which is always good. Jaime, thank you very much for hopping on.
Yeah. Thank you guys for having me.
Uh, we want to thank everyone that was on the chat on YouTube. Like we mentioned, we do want to hope to get these going again moving forward this year. So we do appreciate y'all's patronage as always. And thanks very much for listening. My name is John Jagu. This is the CantinaMX podcast. We will talk to you guys next week.